Take your mind into the wonderful world of physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual wellness. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kinetic Hour. Conversations with you and guests. With your host, Kenan Wesley Mason.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Andrea Nakano. We begin tonight with protests across the country. Hundreds of thousands of people took to the streets today to tell the White House hands off, demonstrating against a number of policies recently put into place by the Trump administration and Elon Musk. Drastic cuts to the federal workforce and slashing federal funding across several government programs were top of the agenda. There was also opposition on other issues such as immigration and tariffs. Well, hands-off protests also happened here in the Bay Area. Oakland seniors rallied together earlier over their fears of the future of Social Security, as did veterans at the Civic Center in San Francisco. Our John Ramos spoke to one who's concerned his Social Security checks may soon stop coming.
If people were waiting for an organized pushback against the Trump administration's agenda, it came today. But it didn't come from lawmakers. It came from the people themselves. People gathered in San Francisco to speak out against Donald Trump's executive actions in a scene reminiscent of the massive protests during the Vietnam War.
I feel as intense as I did when I was 20.
Jim Sanderson remembers what it was like in 1970 when Americans lost their belief in not just a war, but the nation itself.
That was a it was tearing us apart, and the war and all that. I feel like that again, but now the enemy's from within.
Thousands of people filled the street and plaza in front of City Hall, their faces reflecting a full range of life experiences and concerns.
Thank you for reminding us that sometimes the only way to be heard is to disrupt the status quo.
In the front row was May Alice from the East Bay. She, like a lot of people, is concerned about the possibility of cuts to Social Security, but she thinks it's less likely to happen if people turn out in numbers like this.
There isn't anybody that doesn't have a mom or a dad or a grandma or grandpa on Social Security. I don't think it's actually going to be actualized. I don't, because there's 70 million people that will hit the streets and throw this guy into a dumpster, you know?
The so-called hands-off rallies were organized by a national group called Indivisible. They released this map showing the depth of the event nationwide. Susan Austin with the Mid-Peninsula chapter said the hope is to make an impression on Republican lawmakers in conservative states.
What we're going to see today is people in Alabama, in Pennsylvania, in all these red and swing states that are showing up, and their legislators are going to have to take their constituents' points of view into mind. And more and more people are saying this wasn't the Trump that I voted for. These aren't the actions that I was thinking I was getting with Trump.
As he watched from across the street, Jim said he felt a sense of relief, especially after there was so little resistance coming from elected officials in the first few weeks.
And for a minute, I thought I was the only one that smelled smoke in the house and there was a fire. It wasn't until people started pushing back and the artist started saying, a lot of people don't agree with this. That's when I felt, oh, good. Now I got to find something to do.
He's doing what any private citizen can, show up and make their voices heard. And they're hoping that the sheer numbers will mean elected officials who have stayed silent will have something else to fear besides Donald Trump, Election Day.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to another edition of the Kinetic Hour. I am your host, Kenan Wesley Mason. Welcome one, welcome all. And I thank you all so much for tuning in as we are streaming live on Instagram, streaming live on LinkedIn, and streaming live on Facebook. So welcome to all three platforms. Welcome to everyone all over the world tuning in and listening and watching the Kinetic Hour. Is greatly appreciated. As always, go to my YouTube channel and my Rumble channel and subscribe to the Kinetic Hour. And that is Kinetic, Kennetic, the Kinetic Hour. Subscribe, click thumbs up, click the like, leave your comment, click the notification, tell everyone you know to leave comments regarding the comments, share the videos, share this video, share previous videos of the Kinetic Hour. And that way we can take the numbers up higher and higher as new subscribers are tuning in. So thank you all to all the new subscribers. It's always great to have a new audience. As I always say, whether it's one person or 1,000 people listening and watching, my voice will continue to permeate. So thank you all for tuning in. Also, subscribe to Kinetic Fit and Wellness Info, Kinetic Fit and Wellness Info for everything physical health, mental health, spiritual health, psychological health. Subscribe to my Rumble channel as well, which is also the Kinetic Hour. And just thank you all for tuning in. It's always appreciated. I can't thank you all enough. There's 1,000 podcasts that you can be listening to and tuning into. So thank you for tuning in to the Kinetic Hour. The clip that you just witnessed was a massive global protest. And I haven't done any videos, I haven't done any shows on anything political over the last couple of months now. I purposely took a break from talking about politics, and I've had some wonderful guests on in the meanwhile. And thank you to all the guests that have graced the stage of the Kinetic Hour as well. And there's more guests to come. There's more guests to come. So be sure to tune in for that, as I'm always posting promos of the upcoming guests that will be on the Kinetic Hour in the future. So today, for today at least, I'm just going to speak about this protest here and some of the things that have been happening and that have transpired over the last couple of months regarding political and social affairs and how it affects all of us. So there's been some global, and again, for those of you that are new listeners, when I say how it affects all of us, and I mean just that, all of us, it doesn't matter to me what political side that you're on, because I don't belong to Republican Party or the Democratic Party or even the Independent Party. I'm the free thinker, taking my side and just presenting the information as it presents itself to the public and just stating an opinion or two about them. Whether you agree or not is irrelevant to me, as long as you engage in the consideration and the dialogue. But this protest here called Hands Off protest. And this is a global protest that occurred just yesterday, predominantly all over the country, but it also occurred in other countries as well, overseas, and in this specific union as well, Mexico and some parts of Canada. Actually, what I want to do is I'm going to go back to that clip here because it showed I'm going to go back to this clip real quick because it just showed the let me go back to it real quick just so nothing is missed here. Right here, as you can see, This is a nationwide protest. As you can see, all the red marks. And many of the protests are in what we call red states, states that are ran or currently controlled by the Republican Party. As you can see right here, there's Florida, which is saturated uh, by the Republican Party. Here, parts of Texas and your southern states, many of your eastern or what we call New England states. But nonetheless, I mean, you can see here's parts of Mexico as well. But you see a saturation of people that are in protest over some of the policies that have taken place, or some of the policies that have been implemented, and some of the policies that are on the table to be implemented by this individual right here, which I haven't featured in quite a while. But for those that are new subscribers, you'll see me post this picture up when I talk about our current U.S. president, the Donald John Trump, as you see here, because this is his second term within 3 cycles, his second term within 3 cycles, which I'll get to that a little bit later. But all the protests are about him, our president, the Donald, and his vice president, Elon Musk, or some people call him Elonia, because that's how close he's been to our current president. Matter of fact, as I take this down here, but yeah, massive protests because of policies that have been implemented, and because of all the departments that have pretty much been gutted. Many people have been let go of their government positions that they've had for 10, 15, 20 years. And so many people are currently out of work, and many people are upset because of the way that these policies are being implemented amongst or upon the people. And also for veterans, especially for veterans. You know, veterans that have served our country, some veterans that are still serving our country, or some personnel that are still serving the country, but predominantly veterans, people that have served and may have different health issues or health challenges because of their time in the military, the United States military. And now their funds for medical care are being cut off. They're being cut off. Food prices are still skyrocketing. And also, we see how stocks are dropping like flies, the stock market. And if you notice on Fox News, they don't even show the ticker of the stock market anymore because it'll break their narrative. It'll break the narrative. But massive amounts of people protested yesterday. And I know a lot of MAGA supporters will try to say, as this has become a narrative as well, that billionaire George Soros paid for all those hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that were out protesting yesterday. He created that. That's what a lot of people on the quote right, the conservative, the MAGA supporters, this is what they're suggesting, that George Soros is paying all of these people to be out there amongst the people protesting. And also, when you have such the big crowd like this, and these are the type of crowds that the Donald can only dream about, right? Because he always says we have the biggest crowds in the history of mankind. Uh, I have the crowds that the likes that no one's ever seen before. That's his language. And so we have massive protests. Many of your town hall meetings have been interrupted by protesters that have been feeling the same way. They've been feeling the same way as we see many town halls all across the country. And as I bring this up here, because I'm going to bring up a couple of other things, so that way I'm not distracted here. But and I'm going to pull this. I'm going to download that as well. But yeah, there's been a lot of town hall meetings that have been interrupted by protesters that disagree with all of the executive orders that have been implemented. And what else do we have? The Signal app scandal. I mean, there's so much, which I'll get to that in a minute. But the town hall meetings have been interrupted. There have been congressmen and congresswomen that have been given the same talking points, no matter what the questions are from their constituents. They just keep giving the same talking points, that you're going to feel the pain, right? And then you'll be all right on the other side. And if you don't like it, oh well. That's the attitude. I mean, some of the people, some of the congressmen and women have literally walked out from their town hall meetings because they can't take the heat. Not only from Democratic voters, but predominantly from Trump supporters, or quote MAGA supporters, because they're the ones that are speaking the loudest upon all the happenings that have occurred over the last couple of months since he got into office. Again, all the federal jobs that have been dismantled, all the people that have been laid off, while he's on television with Elon Musk, you know, having this car salesman lot on the front of the White House, trying to get the people and convince them that they should buy Teslas. And they may be great cars. I know a few people that have Teslas. No knock against the car. But when it comes to the owner of the corporation called Tesla, calling the shots for the American people, right? When he wasn't elected to anything. If anything, Elon Musk was probably, not even the biggest donor for financing the Donald's win of his second term of the White House. You know, because the Donald was going into massive debt over all these court cases. I mean, he owed the state of New York $450 million. And then they reduced it to, I think, $150 million. And he still couldn't pay that. He had to go to his friends that are at the top. And those are the ones that pretty much purchased his presidency. You know, you do me a favor, I'll do you a favor. You wash my hands, I'll wash yours. This is the way that it goes in politics, whether you're on the Republican side or the Democratic side, it doesn't matter. Bribes and payoffs are the norm in politics. It's just what it is. So you have the president trying to convince people to purchase Tesla. When you have other American cars that are going to be suffering, why haven't you promoted Ford, right? Ford Company. Why haven't you promoted Lincoln and Chrysler and Dodge? These are American car companies, but you're going to put them all on the chopping block because it's all about you and Mr. Musk. You know, the guy that was walking on the stage with the chainsaw like Leatherface, right? Like Leatherface with the chainsaw, because he's gonna slice the workforce in half because of wanting government efficiency. So with all the money that's being collected, because you're putting all these people out of work, so where's all the money going that would have been going to these employees, the government employees that work in federal government? Where's all the money going? Is it going to the Donald? Is it going to Elon Musk? Is it going to Peter Hegseth, the head of the entire military force? Is it going to, Christy Nome and all of these people, the head of Homeland Security? Is it going to Mark Rubio, the head of the, who is the Secretary of State? Is it going to Mike Waltz, the head of the he's the National Security Advisor? Is it going to Steve Miller? Right? These are all the people that Donald hired, all of his friends, right? All of his comrades, his financial equals, right? The people that listen and side with his ideologies, right? All the people that side with his ideologies, these are the people that he gave federal jobs to. He appointed all of them, all of his friends. Linda McMahon, same thing, as she has her and her husband have current sexual assault and violation allegations against them right now, currently. But she's head of the Department of Education. Oh, yeah. But this is politics. This is politics, and this is how it works. When you talk about people that really want to rob the country blind, because that's what's occurring right now. The country's being robbed, and not even being robbed blind. It's like right in our faces. Every single day, it's right in our faces. Whether it's the food prices, car prices, furniture prices, doesn't matter. Because remember, the Donald said, I don't need your vote to get back in the office. Remember he said that? I mean, people have short memories when it comes to, political affairs, because everything kind of moves so fast. He called the COVID operation warp speed. That's how fast they're trying to move all these policies along. Because when it comes time for midterms, because the people are so angry, they're going to be voting most of these people out of office. But by that time, they will have robbed the entire country blind and taken all the money and run, right? I mean, isn't that what his daughter's husband did, right? Ivanka's husband during his first term. He got away with I think $650 million plus dollars over a 4-year period. So that's what they're attempting to do right now, right? Talk about white collar crime. This is what it looks like in its full spectrum. This is what it looks like. You know, the town hall meetings, as I mentioned before. I mean, you have children, and anybody can go look this up. You have children. One high schooler said that she was afraid to even be in the presence of one of these congressmen because they supported or they support people that are currently in Congress that have sexual allegations against them, including the president, who's been found guilty twice of sexual violations. uh, then you have another child that was asking one of the congressmen at one of the town hall meetings about the food in the schools and being concerned about her fellow students, an elementary school girl, being concerned about her fellow students not being provided food in the school. This is what their concerns are. And these are children from elementary to junior high or middle school and at the high school level. This is what their concerns are. And many people just want to kind of dismiss it like it doesn't exist, like their concerns don't matter, because all we care about is rounding people up like sheep and sending them over to El Salvador and all these places, right? Matter of fact, speaking of that, I'm going to pull this clip up. This is a clip of, let me see if I could pull this clip up here. Here it is. This is a clip of Megyn Kelly. She's a former Fox, a former Fox host, who is on her own, still conservative, but nonetheless, she called out what her name is Kristi Noem. She's a former governor of South Dakota, appointed as the department head of Homeland Security. And so I'm going to pull this up and play this clip here.
But it was obviously a curated photo op that she put together to make sure she looked. And in all this, she's got false eyelashes, heavy eyeliner, the big lips with all the gloss, the heavy blush. You know, she's camera ready, like I would be for doing a television hit, but maybe not when I was riding the horses and like capturing illegals. And then she went next level last night. By the way, this is after she got in trouble for like being a spokesperson for a dental office when she was still the governor of South Dakota and showing off her fake veneers, which she's really proud of. Like, very obsessed with the new look, which is dramatically different than the old look. And then we see her last night dropping this video from that El Salvadorian prison. Watch.
I also want everybody to know if you come to our country illegally, this is one of the consequences you could face. First of all, do not come to our country illegally. You will be removed and you will be prosecuted. But know that this facility is one of the tools in our toolkit that we will use if you commit crimes against the American people.
Okay. Standing behind her in a cage are dozens of shirtless prisoners in the El Salvadorian jail, looking kind of scared, confused. They're being used as props for her photo op in her skin tight shirt with her hair perfectly curled and coiffed. And again, the makeup, as she tries to sound tough with these prisoners behind her as her background, as like truly her human props in her photo. And I'm telling you, you guys, it's fucked up.
All right. So, as you see that, and those are her words. As we just saw, the former governor of South Dakota, in front of all these supposed gang members, right? Because they rounded all these brown people up like sheep, right? Rounded them all up. And then we find out that many of them have never belonged to any gang of any kind. And they're American citizens, many of them. But when you have a person in the White House like the Donald, this is what you get. Just kind of rounding people up willy-nilly just so you can make your point that people are coming from out of the jails. They're breaking out of the jails. They're breaking out of the mental asylums, right? That's what his narrative is. And that's what he wants all of America to believe, that there's a bunch of black and brown people. Remember, he said there's people coming from the Congo, swimming all the way over here across the Atlantic Ocean to terrorize you, right? And then we find out that many of these people are American citizens and have never been a part of any type of criminality, ever. And if there's such number of people coming from these prisons and mental asylums, how come we don't know about them? Where are they? What's the name of the mental asylum? What are their names? What are these departments? Why don't we know where they are? What city are they in? What country are they in? Because we keep hearing this generalization that all these criminals are coming from prisons and mental asylums, but you can't name not one. Name one. Where are they coming from? Which mental asylum are they coming from? So we can investigate them and find out how they're escaping in such numbers. And they're specifically coming to America to terrorize Americans, right? When we know statistically that most of the crime that takes place here in America are by Caucasian people, predominantly Caucasian men. That's a statistical fact by the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, among other credible sources. But the belief, but they want you to believe that all of the crime, the Department of Justice, statistical brief. Yeah, but they want you to believe that brown people from Venezuela are coming over here in such the numbers to terrorize Americans. And I'm not saying that it hasn't happened, but the way that it's being presented to the public would make one believe that that's all that it is. And this is the only place where crime is coming from into America. You know, crime is being imported to America. And then you have the Donald. I'm going to bring this up. This is one of his many tweets from his, I think, Truth Social. I'm just going to put this up because I think this one is pretty funny. But, you know, there's tariffs and all kind of things happening. You know, Donald is in this trade war with other countries. But here it reads, China has been hit much harder than the U.S. China has been hit much harder than the U.S. Not even close. They and many other nations have treated us unsustainably badly, right? That's his language. They and many other nations have treated us unsustainably badly, right? Like he likes to say the word bigly, badly. China has been hit much harder than the U.S., not even close. They and many other nations have treated us unsustainably badly. We have been the dumb and helpless whipping post, according to him and his followers and the people that he's appointed, all of his friends and close loyalists. But not any longer. We are bringing back jobs. When? When? And businesses like never before, which are his favorite terminologies. Everything is like we've never seen before, right? Already more than $5 trillion of investment and rising fast. Where? Where is it? This is an economic revolution and we will win. Hang tough. It won't be easy, but the end result will be historic. We will make America great again. We will make America great again. So, as we're in a trade war, as prices of virtually everything will go up. I mean, this is why the protests aren't just limited to here in the States. I mean, there's protests all over the world for the same purposes, because this is going to affect commerce. It's going to affect commerce. And so, and because Tesla, or Elon Musk, his company Tesla, the numbers have dropped in his corporation. And of course, he's going to play the blame game, saying Democrats did this, Democrats did that. But again, this is what happens when you start taking the reins because of this this group that you've created about government efficiency, right? The Department of Government Efficiency, because they believe that government has never been efficient. So they're the ones that are going to clean it up, at the same time robbing the American people blind, because we have our eyes wide shut, right? I mean, I've already said on a previous show, and I may have said it even more than that. You know, you have some of the old timers, you know, like Alan Greenspan and Zbigniew Brzezinski. You know, they said that in order to make stuff like this happen, you have to create a crisis. You have to create it, which is what Project 2025 is about, creating a crisis, which is what's happening right now, which is why you have these protests. Matter of fact, I think it's this upcoming weekend, in a few days, Bernie Sanders, Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont, I guess he's still an independent. I don't know. He kind of goes back and forth, but being an independent, then he's a Democrat, then he's an independent again. But Bernie Sanders and Miss Cortez, who they call AOC, you know, they've been going on these tours to protest as well. And I think they're coming to Los Angeles this upcoming weekend, if I'm not mistaken. Because again, so many people are looking at what's happening, including Trump supporters and Trump voters. And they're looking at what's happening and saying, hey, we didn't vote for this, because now their jobs are coming up missing. Their 401ks, their Social Security is coming up missing, or it's being heavily decreased, heavily decreased, or just gone altogether. And like Aaron Russo said, we're mad as hell and we're not going to take it anymore. Oh, matter of fact, go back and watch the documentary called America, Freedom to Fascism, which talks about how fraudulent the IRS is. And I know they're trying to take out the IRS, which is long overdue, and trying to create a national tax, which is something similar that former governor of Minnesota, Jesse Ventura, used to talk about like 2 decades ago. Abolish the IRS and just bring in a national income tax. That way, people don't have to file an income tax. But if you watch the movie America, Freedom to Fascism, you'll find out that the American citizen, by constitutional law, we shouldn't even have to file any federal income tax. But that's another complicated issue for another show. Nonetheless, this is why the people are so upset with government right now on both sides. On both sides. And then you have this Signal scandal where the head of the military, Peter Hexagon, that's what I call him, Peter Hexagon, how he and many of his partners in Congress were just chopping it up on this app about military strikes that they were going to do and how it was leaked to the public. And instead of them taking accountability for what happened, they want to pass the buck and blame the messenger, the one that reported it. His name is Jeffrey Goldberg, because I guess they allowed him in on the conversation, not knowing who he was. I guess he's a reporter from a something called The Atlantic, a news corporation called The Atlantic. And he was allowed in by Mike Walls, who took responsibility for allowing him in, not knowing what the adversity was going to turn into. And speaking of Mike Waltz, we know how much MAGA supporters and a lot of Republicans, they've been making these big deals about the LGBTQ community and people that are transgender. But I want to bring this up because it appears that politics. I mean, this is how dirty politics can be. This is something that came up regarding Mike Walls. If the Trump administration's Signal debacle wasn't bad enough, I found that Michael G. Walls, married to Julia, I can't pronounce that last name, since 2021, follows a gay pornography account. Walls and Nashwat's personal lives are their own, but it's well known. Let me do this here. It's well known that secret sexual improprieties can be used to compromise political figures, which has been done time and time again, because we know, and it should be well known by now, this has been happening. I mean, we can go all the way back to pre-World War II, that many of the men that are in Congress engage in sexual activity with other men. It's just what it is. that secret sexual improprieties can be used to compromise political figures, and Walz is in one of the most powerful and sensitive positions in the U.S. government. The question must be asked, does Walz's apparent secret lust for black men or black males make him susceptible to blackmail? As you see here, his name right here as one of the followers of this gentleman here. And here's one of his yeah, he's congressman. Oh gosh. Former US Army Green Beret. I mean, he's a former military man, Green Beret. And again, no knock on that, but again, this is the hypocrisy that occurs in politics. This is the hypocrisy. And speaking of hypocrisy, and I love bringing up these clips because, you know, when I talk about politics, you know, many people, especially MAGA supporters, they tend to disagree, which is fine, you know, which is fine. I don't expect for everyone to agree with everything that I say. I'd be naive to even entertain that. But I'm going to put this on the screen here. Oh, let's see. Yeah, I'm going to go here. I'm going to go here. And this is from TikTok, just to show you the hypocrisy of the current Trump administration and how quickly people flip-flop their ideologies when they are chosen or invited to come in to have positions of power. So I'm just going to play this here.
All these white working class voters, we told you so. We told you that Trump was going to be a terrible candidate. We told you that you were an idiot if you voted for him.
Talk to the Trump supporters for a minute. I don't know who you are, and I don't know why you like this guy. He's a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot. He doesn't represent my party. He doesn't represent the values that the men and women who wear the uniform are fighting for.
He's playing the members of the American public for suckers. He gets a free ride to the White House, and all we get is a lousy hat.
President Trump has surrounded himself with the political elite who've spent like drunken sailors. They've raided Social Security, and they continue to waste taxpayer dollars. Everybody talked about the economy when Trump was president. He put us $8 trillion in debt in just 4 years.
Donald Trump is a con artist. Has portrayed himself now consistently as fighting for the working people, and he has a record of sticking it to working people for 35 years.
What I really think of Donald Trump. This man is a pathological liar. His response is to accuse everybody else of lying. Whatever he does, he accuses everyone else of doing. Everything in Donald's world is about Donald.
All right. So as we come out of there, as you can see how quickly people flip-flop when they either are asked to take certain positions of power, or what I just mentioned earlier, if the president has something hanging over their heads that they may reveal to the public that may ruin their political careers. I mean, is this why Mr. Chuck Schumer decided to keep the government open instead of having it shut down? Right? Because a lot of Democrats were really kind of upset and surprised and shocked at the fact that he went along with the Donald on keeping this train going, right? This train wreck that's happening right now. So do they have something on Mr. Chuck, right? Do they have something over him? Because again, this is how it works. When you have something on another political figure, that you can present to the public that will ruin their political careers or ruin their family life, and you hold it over them to make sure that they do your bidding and keep the agenda going, this is what they'll do. And in the Donald's case, matter of fact, I'll just end with this. I challenge anyone, and I mentioned this several months back, but I finally got to see the movie The Apprentice. The Apprentice. And the star and co-star, they were nominated for Academy Awards for their roles, playing one Donald Trump and Roy Cohen. And you can look up Roy Cohen and see who he was. But I challenge the MAGA supporters. I challenge the MAGA supporters to take a look at the movie The Apprentice. It's a great movie. It's a great movie. And it's very telling of why the Donald has the mentality that he does and always has had throughout his lifetime, especially during his adult life, and how he interacted with his parents and his brother, who was an airline pilot, right? He went to flight school and passed with flying colors, you know, wanted to get into engineering and all kind of stuff. You know, he was a really, he had a lot of smarts and intelligence. But the family, especially the father, Fred Trump, it was all about the money. It's all about the money, being financially comfortable and nothing else, right? It's all about the money, honey, right? So The Apprentice, and on top of that, it goes into his relationship with his first wife, Ivana. And for those of you that don't believe that those sexual allegations that he was found guilty of are not true, remember, Ivana wrote in those memoirs how she was treated by the Donald during their marriage. So again, the movie was great. It had some very intense moments, but it was very telling of how the Donald got into his position of being the celebrity figure that he has become. Because he's a celebrity. He's a celebrity president, just like Ronald Reagan was a celebrity president. Arnold Schwarzenegger, celebrity governor. But in the Donald's case, something much deeper was happening, and some of the things that he witnessed as he progressed into his status, and why he thinks the way that he does, and why he treats people the way that he does, why he interacts with people the way that he does, and how he got his status of being the public figure that he's become over the last almost 50 years now, starting with the lawsuit with those apartment complexes, with being discriminatory against mostly Black people. But nonetheless, it appeared that he had problems with a lot of people in those complexes. But the movie was great. And I challenge anyone, especially MAGA supporters, to go and watch it, because you love the Donald so much and love all of his policies and everything that he has to say. You know, his his elementary verbiage, you know. now I know why he never promoted the movie. You know, the Donald loves to go be over the top about everything, but you see that he did not mention that movie not one time. Fox News didn't mention the movie not one time. Newsmax never mentioned the movie not one time. OAN never mentioned the movie not once. Not one time. None of them mentioned it. And if you are brave enough to view it, you'll see why. You'll see why. And how the Donald was transformed into the man that he is today, right? A grumpy old man that wants to make America healthy again. But this is the same man that was on that airplane with Robert Kennedy and Elon Musk eating McDonald's, right? Because he loves McDonald's. Remember, he did that thing in McDonald's where he was getting the French fries and, you know, serving it up to the people. That's what he loves to eat. And McDonald's has never made America healthy again. And no knock on McDonald's, but that's just the fact. Make America healthy again while he's chugging down cheeseburgers and French fries from McDonald's, right? With Robert Kennedy, the guy that's supposed to help in the quest to make America healthy again. So check out the movie, The Apprentice. The Apprentice. Also check out the movie America, Freedom to Fascism. America, Freedom to Fascism, which are great documentaries, which is a great documentary from Aaron Russo, the late Aaron Russo. And I can talk about him because he made some pretty great documentaries and had some great stories to tell about some of the figures that he came into contact with. And I might highlight that as well in the future. But there's been a lot of things going on. I thought I'd come on for a little bit and just talk about a few things. Will the food prices go down? Who knows, right? Because he was talking about the eggs and the bacon and how he's trying to make these negotiations to have eggs imported to America, but the other countries, they don't even want to negotiate with him. And then he's complaining about why they don't want to take our beef, right? No country wants to take our beef. America has the worst beef on the planet, bar none. Hell, they're even cautious and about taking the grass-fed beef, let alone the regular commercial beef, because it's the worst on the planet, American beef. It's just what it is. And it's been that way for years, for decades. Remember those cows in Texas from last year? You know, they were being reported to have bird flu, and they want other countries to purchase our beef, the most unhealthy beef on the planet. And they want other countries to purchase that with tariffs and price hikes. Nobody wants American beef, you know. I've had grass-fed beef. I've eaten Argentinian beef as well. And it's very different. And it's great. And it won't give you the itis either. As American beef will. American beef, American chicken, American pork. You know, all the three meats that we love so much. But we want to make America healthy again, right? So there's a lot going on. I'm going to end it there as we are hitting the hour mark. I didn't want to stay on any longer than that. But there's so much going on. Protests with all the chaos that's going on. And none of the all the protests that happened yesterday all over the country, all of them went over without a hitch of violence or any type of commotion or chaos. All of, we haven't heard not one incident of any type of mishaps at any of these protests. Not one as of yet. Not one. So kudos to all the people that went out there, Republican and Democrat, because both of them were out there. You can't have a protest of this magnitude and say that it was only Democrats being paid off by George Soros. I mean, we'd be silly and naive to believe something like that. There were Trump supporters out there in numbers. Why? Because they're being affected too. The Trump voters, not just freaking Democrats, but Trump supporters too, that care about their 401ks, their Social Security, their parents' Social Security, right? Their government jobs or careers, their government careers, because some of them have been there for decades. And then they just been put on the chopping block. Why? Because Elon Musk said so. Because we're spending too much money, right? But we'll do an infomercial about selling Teslas in front of the White House, right? We'll do infomercials in front of all of these supposed gang members at some prison in El Salvador, with Kristi Noem being all dolled up just to do her video op. This is what the American people are paying for with our tax dollars, right? The signal scandal, talking about all the bombs that we're going to be dropping on Yemen, right? Because we always love attacking Yemen. So we'll see what happens in the weeks and months coming up. And I'll be back to report it all as I see it. Whether we agree or disagree, it's happening. It's happening right in front of us. Every day, every night. When you wake up in the morning, it's happening. When you go to sleep, it's happening. Whether you want to believe it or not is irrelevant. It's happening. And the only way it will change is when you have massive protests like this. Now, will the Donald acknowledge it? I don't know. You know, he was out playing golf all weekend at his home in Mar-a-Lago, you know, the former home of the Post family. That's Mar-a-Lago, the former home of the Post family. You know, Post cereals and products. That's their former home, and he bought it for pennies on the dollar. But he's the billionaire, right? The billionaire that had to go and have his friends bail him out from paying this debt to the state of New York so he can become president. Oh, gosh. Go to my YouTube channel, subscribe, Kinetic, KENNETIC, the Kinetic Hour. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Again, there's 1,000 podcasts that you can be listening to. So thank you for tuning in, whether you agree or disagree, as long as we consider the dialogue. You can disagree all you want, but at least let's consider the dialogue. Oh, matter of fact, before I go, I'm going to bring this up because I talked about, I'm going to just backtrack just for a quick minute. I'm going to bring this up because a lot of people have been talking about this here. This right here, I'm going to bring up because, you know, a lot of people, you know, I mentioned about many MAGA supporters and Republican lawmakers are big on this transgender subject. And as you see here, this made headlines. a female fencing fencer refused to have refused to be the opponent of a transgender opponent. She refused to have a fencing fight with this woman right here. You see the protester taking a knee, refusing to have this contest with the transgender. And so there was this big thing about it. And, you know, there's been a lot of talk about transgender women that don't want to be men anymore and would rather make themselves into women. And I think I've said this before, but I'll say it again. If it's the first time, then you'll hear it here. My thought is that for people that choose to become transgender or change their gender, because in nature there is only two sexes, you know, male and female, for the purpose of procreating or progressing the human species. So you have in sports, at least here in America, I can't speak on other countries, but here in America, in sports, you have men competing against other men, and you have women competing against other women. So how about this suggestion for the transgender person that wants to participate in sports as well? As they should. They should be allowed to participate in sports. How about all the transgenders compete against each other? And they have their own respective locker rooms, their own respective bathrooms, just like we have unisex bathrooms. Make a bathroom for them or a restroom and a locker room specifically for them. And they can compete against each other. And therefore, all is fair in sports. So therefore, there's no disadvantage of a naturally born female having to compete against a transgender female, a man that still has the female that still has the essence of the man, the bone structure, the DNA, the muscle strength. And to the young lady that took a knee, kudos to her, because, you know, as a if my daughter decides to play sports, I wouldn't want her out there competing against other boys and having boys in the locker room, or transgender. Let them face each other and have their own fair competitions amongst themselves. And that way, everyone is happy at the end of the day. So for all transgenders, how about you compete against your own other transgender people? And that way it's a fair contest and no one has an unfair advantage, you know, because I'm about playing fair. I'm about playing fair. I love sports, but it's about playing fair. And let's have a fair competition, and let's see who comes out on top. Fairly, fairly and squarely. You know, like you said, we won fair and square. So how about the all transgender people? How about they just compete amongst themselves and problem solved? So I almost forgot to bring that up. But again, these are some of the gripes that people have, and it's legitimate, but it's not the only thing to be put on the table. So I'll end it with that. To everyone listening and watching, again, go to my YouTube channel, go to my Rumble channel, subscribe, tell everyone that you know to subscribe. Leave your comments. What do you think about all of that? You think that transgender people should have their own league and, you know, have their own lane for sports competition? What do you think? Or should these transgender women should be allowed to compete against naturally born females when they still have the essence and the testosterone of men, which gives an unfair advantage? What do you think? What do you think about all the chaos that's going on with all of the people being let go of their government positions? You know, what do you think about all the photo ops of people getting dolled up to be in front of so-called prisoners, right? And again, I challenge everyone to watch the movie The Apprentice. And you can, and I know it's a film, I know it's entertainment, but when you learn about who made the movie and why it was made and how it was made and what the story was based from, real life events that can easily be looked up, you'll understand why, or you'll understand how we get this character here. Why we get this character. And he's going to be in the White House at least for the next 3.5 years. This man right here, he's going to be in the White House, creating commotion, creating chaos, and making the people to get in their emotions, right? So there's more bickering and more division amongst what they call the American people, right? Because when you get all this chaos here, their favorite comeback is, well, this is what the American people voted for. That's their favorite comeback line. This is what the American people voted for. So we're going to do the will of the American people by creating all this chaos and division. Why? Because this is what you voted for, right? Or this is what they believe they voted for. And this is what many of the voters believe they voted for, right? Chaos and division. But chaos and division can be remedied, getting the people together, because this is a country of the people, right? The republic of the people through what they call democracy. And some people may disagree, the power of the vote. But again, in a republic, it's about the people, the will of the people, because the people that are voted into office, they're supposed to work for us. That's what they do. They work for us. We pay them their salaries through our tax dollars. So we'll see how things transpire as we get more of this character here over the next 3.5 years. So to everyone listening and watching, thank you wholeheartedly. I'm going to have more guests coming on to talk about more topics. I have a great guest coming up to talk about the education department. And we're just going to have some great conversations about multiple topics and things just for you to consider. So to everyone listening and watching, I thank you so much. And until next time.